Hey guys, so I'm here and I'm going to show you another process video that I'm going to be making right now. This time I'm using the Prima Stationer's Desk collection. If you haven't watched my last layout video, one of the things that I do like to do is I start with a base page, like the main base page that my whole layout's going to be on top of. Then I'll go through my A4 papers and see what pages I'm going to use to layer, and then I'll go through my embellishments or my 6x6 papers, but usually the A4s are enough. So I'm going to take everything out from this collection right now, and I buy all of my I try to buy all of my collections as whole sets, so including the 12x12, A4, 6x6, and as many of the embellishments as my pocket can handle at that given moment. In order
Okay,
to get
so
everything
here I am
cohesively
just putting my
created.
embellishments away and
So here we
opening
go.
the paper pad. I am going to choose the paper that I'm going to use and start picking and choosing the papers that I will be using for layering as well. I'm just taking out all of the cutouts and sticker sheets and whatnot from the 12x12 paper pad before I get started on the layout. Here I'm just cutting down that cut apart sheet that comes in the 12x12 collection kit. Once these are all cut down, I'm essentially just going to start using them to layer. I had a little caption up earlier that showed that I didn't even use the A4 paper, and that is because I literally only used the cutouts from the cut apart sheet that came in the 12x12 collection pack. So now I'm just taking my inks or rather I chose the inks that I'm going to use, and I'm taking my picture and I'm starting to do the layering process. So as I said, I really only used the cut aparts that I cut from the 12x12 collection pack. Nothing fancy. I'm literally just placing right now so I have an idea as to how what colors I want to see next to each other and what I don't want to see next to each other, what I want lower, higher. Pretty much that's what's happening right now. At this point, I am now starting to ink all the edges with the ink pad that you see me using. The ink pad that I used for the majority of this layout is the Dewdrop fast drying pigment ink in the, I guess it's the Brilliance collection, and it's the pearlescent crimson color. That is my main inking color for this layout. So right now what you see me doing is I'm literally just sticking the papers down to the back of the photo for my first layer behind the photo, and what I'm using is I'm using some, like, I think it's called scrappy tape, so score tape, scrappy tape. That's what I'm using for this layout. I didn't really feel like pulling out my ATG gun this time around. Right now, I am just simply adding a piece of chipboard to the back of the photo paper or the photo cluster or paper cluster in order to give it some height. I did that to um, the base layer as well, which you would have seen earlier. And now I'm literally just adding layers, 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 layers. And one thing that you notice me do is I cut apart um, a lot of the cutouts that were already cut from the 12x12 cut apart page. So I mean, just because it comes that size doesn't mean you have to use that whole size of paper. So no reason why you can't cut down the whole thing as much as you want. And here I'm just inking the edges of the entire page. I didn't really like the fact that there was no ink around the edges. And at this point, it's kind of in the distance because of the angle of the camera, but I'm layering now a side cluster to the right of the page, and I'm starting to bring in some angles. I really like straight lines on my layouts. I'm not a fan of circles or ovals or like even rounded corners for me. I don't know why. I just can't handle rounds. So what I do is now at this point I'm trying to add some angles in order to get into a variety of a variety of different textures. And I'm just once again cutting apart the cut apart page or the cut aparts from the 12 by 12 pack. Here, actually, what I do is I add some chipboard to some of the side angle bits that I cut out in order to give those a bit of height on the side of the page. And what I do with the leftover pieces from the angles that I cut for the right side of the page is I just add them to my cluster. So now the paper clustering is mostly done. So at this point now I'm adding a metal paper clip that comes in the, or yeah, I think it's a paper clip that comes in the collection, and then I add another one to the left. The one that I add on top of my leg there is says beauty, and the one that I add to the left of that is just a flower. I also add some wooden pieces. I cut apart one of the wooden frames that comes in the wooden embellishment pack, and I put it to the right hand cluster, and I used the dragonfly and butterfly on the two corners of the pictures. One thing I should mention is I forget to ink up my wooden embellishments. I normally would, but I go back later and I ink up the frames on the right-hand cluster of the page. Here I'm just using the one of the tags that comes with the collection, or that comes as a tag in the collection, and I'm putting that to the edges of my page here, or to the edges of the cluster. And I also pull out another tag ticket thing, and that one says today on it. And yeah, I figured because it's like kind of an everyday thing that I would include that ticket today. So here I'm adding a flare button that comes as part of the collection. I actually didn't even really like where I put it, and I tried to rip it off while I was going through this layout, and it almost ripped the paper off. So I was like, forget that. We'll just leave that there. Here I'm just stamping using the stamp that comes with the flare buttons that you can get. I didn't really have any thought process on how I was stamping it. I just started stamping it and went with however it showed up. The other colors that I used in my stamping process include the same Brilliance brand in Pearl Chocolate and also in Pearl Poppy. So here's where you see me inking up the wood icons, and now it's time for flower embellishing. Deciding on placement of flowers is one of my biggest frustrations because I kind of want to put them everywhere all the time now because of how much I love dimension on my pages nowadays, and I just can't. So I want to use them all the time. So I try to make it work here. I definitely try to use those leaves. There are a lot of leaves in the Prima leaf packages, and it makes it difficult to use them all because there are just that many. So I try and use a lot on this layout. And here I am just inking up the edges of some of the flowers and the leaves as I'm about to glue them down. I use hot glue to glue them down, which is why you don't see where the glue comes from at this point, because I have to go to a different spot in the room to get the hot glue on those flowers. Once the flowers get put down, that is pretty much the end of the layout. I don't do any bling on this because I add the title, and the title has a lot of shimmer to it. So once I add the title, then it ends up being kind of really shiny as it is. So after I add the title, or actually as I'm adding the title, the battery dies. So you'll see the final pictures at the end of the video. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you back soon. Bye for now.